Hey, what's up guys? My name is Boda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're just going to kind of give some reminders as to why you do not want to be that coulda, woulda, shoulda guy. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on in the market and there's a lot of bearish sentiment currently in the market, which is pretty crazy considering where we're at in the timeline and all the things going on. So we're just going to kind of talk about it, give our thoughts as to where we're at in this market and just a lot of these big huge catalysts coming up in the coming weeks, guys. We are nearing the end of this thing, yet people are still extremely bearish. So we're just going to talk about it, give our thoughts and our reasoning as to why, right? Not just point out specific things, but just talk about my specific reasoning, okay? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So a lot of bearish sentiment, a lot to the point where it's so crazy because of just where we're at in the timeline and everything going on, right? A lot of people are pointing towards like Bitcoin's price, like, oh man, we're back in the 50s. Look at where we were just a year ago, bros. Last September, we were in the 20s. Okay, like you hear the saying a lot, when in doubt, zoom out. Okay. So we're going to go over a couple questions that I've been getting a ton of. One of the primary ones is just regarding the cycle in general, that there's no way it's going to happen. We already peaked, that if it was this easy, everyone would be millionaires. So pros and cons to that. So I'm fully in belief that it's going to repeat again. Is it to the point where I'm going to freaking dump everything and put every penny I have in the market? No. Okay, so before we even fully get into it, none of this is financial advice. And like as you'll hear over and over from many people, do not risk more than you're willing to lose. Okay, so like for me, it's an investment. It was a plan I made pretty much since starting to mine. Pretty much right when I really started learning the gist of it, like 2-3 years ago. Kind of all the preparation was for this bull market. Okay, so like for me, I'm a firm believer. Am I dumping every penny I have into it? No. Am I dumping a lot of the free money I have now? Yes, right? And for me, this is a short-term play specific to this cycle. Okay, so again, the number one comment, there's no way it's going to repeat. There's no way we're going to get another bull market. My perspective, we've already been in this bull market. Okay, if you've been participating in this market, you've been following the trends, you've been in it, right? You probably know what I'm saying right now. Okay, so for example, for me, like I've mentioned before in some of my other portfolio update videos, all those kinds of things, once we have that confirmed bottom, for me, it's already started, right? And we can kind of go back and see, right? Again, like just a year ago, we were in the 20s. Okay, go back farther than that, go back to the low back in November, December 22. Back we're in 16K, pretty much since then. I mean, look at the chart since then. Okay, it's hard to really say that it hasn't started. We're at 16K, right? It's nearly a 4x since then. Okay, so a good chunk of the gains, depending on the coin, depending on what you're looking at, have already happened. So for people to say that, oh yeah, there's no way it's going to happen again, in my mind frame, we're halfway through already. Okay, so the bullish action, like depending on your triggering for converting when to say it's a bull market, when it's not, it's all up to people's interpretation. But in my opinion, depending on the coin, again, a lot of the gains have already been made, right? So a prime example of this was with Solana. Okay, so back when we're talking about it, when it was under 20 bucks for a long time, and the sentiment was, oh, it's going to zero because all the FTX stuff and everything going on. That was the time to get in, right? So if you didn't get in like under $12 range, so again in December it was under 10 bucks. We had this whole pretty much year, all of 2023, where it was under 20 bucks. Okay, if we go just by the current bear market high, it reached damn near $200 already. Right, so if you buy, let's say even at 20 bucks, like you didn't get down in the teens or under, even if you got into this $20 range, it's almost a 10x already. Okay, so yes, it's still gonna do well from here. Hopefully it goes up to $500 and well over, right? So if you bought again at $10, this thing goes to 500, that's a 50x. Okay, but if you're buying in now, which this is a discounted price, get anywhere from a 4 to maybe potentially 6, 7, 8x, right? So like in the case of Solana, for example, the biggest gains have already been had, right? That's why it's hard to say that, oh yeah, this has definitely been the worst bear market ever, you know, when you've already had like damn near a 20x gain, depending on where you bought from here, on a top altcoin. This is not a shit coin going from a 5 million market cap to a 50 million market cap. This is a top 10 crypto currently ranked number 5. Okay, so to say that, oh, this is not going to happen, there's no way it happens again, in my opinion, it started well over a year ago already. Okay, and hopefully this is the best part, though. Hopefully this coming year is the better half of it. But to say that there's no way it's going to happen, to me, that's falsehood. And there's example after example. In some cases, it's like, for example, with Caspa, it's one that we caught early on. This was definitely the gem of this bear market. If you bought anywhere back here, you are extremely happy and extreme upside, right? Like this is one, again, when we're talking about it, my early videos, when we're talking about it in October, November, my bull market price prediction at that point was like 4 cents. Look at where we're at right now, and look at like where it looks like it's going. And again, it was just hard to imagine, right? We talk about the theoretically, like, oh man, maybe this coin will get into this market cap. Kind of happened again here already, right? This is another prime example that a lot of the gains have already been had, right? Hopefully we do get another couple of X's. Hopefully we do go up to beyond 50 cents. We go to 75 cents, $1, maybe even beyond that if it does get even more hype. Again, it's already gone extreme traction. Never would I have thought it was going to go this high at the time this quickly, right? To get this kind of adoption, not only from the mining community, but the trading community, the DGen community, crypto YouTube community in general, as far as a lot of the big, like, million plus subscriber YouTube channels talking about it as well. It's been crazy, right? But again, this is another example of one that's already ran. And there are others, right? There's been some that just we did not really fully see on our radar. Some of us were bullish on it, did not think it was going to do this quickly. Nervos was another one that if you were mining this, if you had a K7 on the mining front, it was another great example of what can happen, right? And it's one of those things where everybody goes off of, you know, ROI and looking at this, and there's no way it's going to be a 5-year ROI or ROI never. And reality, it's speculation, and it's looking for those opportunities where it's potential long-term stacking potential, which was one of our biggest things with the K7. It's hopefully we can get a year and a half of being the best ASIC with the K7, and here we are well over a year and a half, and it's still the best ASIC for it. And again, any of you guys who got in early, it's even at this price jump. Again, if we look at the year mark, we did have a pretty recent up. We have been running up though, but it's still a pretty big drop from where we were not that long ago, right? If we look at the price point, we were in the over 3 cent range. We're currently at about 1.5 cents. So it's about 50% of where it was a few months ago. And even at this point, even at this current price, I mean, this thing, if you mine and held, it's well over $20-something thousand worth of CKB if you've been mining it at this dump. Obviously back here, it's closer to 35, 40 and just still continuing to grow, right? But it's one that was based off of speculation, doing it long term, because again, we were mining back here during this boring time where profitability was barely break even or only a couple of bucks. Those are the times to accrue, those are the times to stack. And it's kind of the same thing even with a lot of the current ASICs right now. Everybody's bitching and moaning and crying about, oh, it's only making this amount. It's, you have to look at the future potential. Okay, in this case, it just happened to come early. Realistically, my bull market price target for this thing, like at the peak of 2025, was only 2 cents. Again, you can see how much I was undercutting it, and it just happened to happen early, right? It did have this bullish pump because of their developments extremely early on. Will it go well beyond that? Will it go crazier from here? It's hard to say, just because again, if we look at the max chart comparing it to the previous cycle, it pretty much matched the previous all-time high, pretty damn close in terms of the coin value. In terms of market cap though, this is where it's not as simple as just looking at those previous targets, right? And this is another thing I want to continue to branch on, is just don't just look at those previous all-time highs and base it off of that, right? Previous, cycle tops from the previous cycle. You have to look beyond that. You have to look at how inflationary that coin is. What are they doing with their tokenomics, with their emissions? Because all those things take into account. Okay, so like at this point, for example, realistically, this 35-cent range, like I wouldn't be surprised that if that was damn near the peak of what it hits next year, right? Could it go well beyond that? Potentially, but like already basing it off of the market cap, look at how much higher it is than the previous all-time high. Okay, this is where you need to focus at. This is also something you need to take into consideration. So although, yes, it can definitely go well beyond that, it's already a good gain over the previous all-time high in terms of overall market cap, because again, you have to account for that inflation. Okay, in one cycle, that's 4 years. That's 4 years worth of tokens that get added on. So it's going to take a lot more value to get the individual coin price to go higher. Okay, so different coins have different value propositions, and that's just a big thing you have to look at, a big metric. So it's not as simple as like, oh, I think the entire crypto market cap will double, so we can go based off of this previous price, and I think it'll double from there if it does well. It's not that simple. If at these bear market highs, it's like, for example, the previous all-time high, you can see it's right around $1 billion. Recently hit close to $1.5 billion already recently at this recent high. Okay, so you kind of got to be realistic with the predictions. Okay, so just something to factor in. It's not that simple. And some of the coins are actually, potentially even a lot of the coins won't reach their previous all-time highs. Some will, some won't, and that's where you kind of have to place your bets. You have to position yourself, right? And that's going to be the big theming of this video is get ready for this thing. Look at where we're at in the cycle and position yourselves, bros. Get ready because things can flip just like that. Okay, another example of like paying attention to like the market caps and such is with AVAX. If we look at the overall price comparison, right, we compare the current price right now where it's at 23 bucks and the previous all-time high being around 120 or so. You look at like, okay, still a lot of upside, and then you look at the market cap, and that's where things do kind of change quite a bit, right? If you look at the price where it was previously when it was at $1 billion, it's drastically different. Okay, and again, you have to account for inflation, especially with these coins. A lot of these proof-of-stake coins, a big appeal with is those staking rewards, right? But again, the higher those rewards are, the higher the inflation rate is, right? And with AVAX, for example, it's something like 9% or something like that is what our returns are, which are extremely good in terms of getting the coin, but it's also going to increase that inflation rate. Okay, so again, make sure you're paying attention to that. So like for me, for example, as far as the cycle goes, again, my viewpoint, it already started back when we had those lows. Okay, so we are in full swing, in my opinion. The other big thing you want to focus on is just how things have played out in comparison to the previous cycle. Okay, the biggest thing is being the low, right? This is pretty crazy to see. I mean, you can even just eyeball it here. The low for this cycle was in November, December of 22, back when BTC was at 16K, and we can see where it is currently, right? Even if we go back to the previous cycle, it stands out pretty easily. We don't even got to zoom in. Okay, this was the low here prior to this run up. It did have a run up, it did have a dip, and then had the massive run up. But the low for that cycle, I mean, you can line it up. Again, the low for this current cycle, December 22, so we'd go back 4 years, and it brings us to what? December of 18. Where was the low? Roundabouts. It's not going to be exact. This 4-year thing also isn't exact, and there's going to be deviations. Okay, but if we go back to this low, it was also December 2018. Okay, in that time frame. Okay, so it's not going to be exact because things do deviate, just like we saw last bull market with the double tops. Okay, that's something that hasn't happened before, and like even this cycle with us breaking the previous all-time high so early in the game, that's another big difference maker, right? So these things aren't going to be exact, but I do have full confidence that it's going to happen yet again. Okay, and also it really depends on your reasoning beyond that. Like, it's also not as simple like, oh yeah, it's going to go up just because of the Bitcoin halving and no other factors play into play or come into play, right? So that's where it's going to be dependent on your viewpoint, your research. Like, to me, I don't think it's just because the Bitcoin halving. Like, it's not the Bitcoin halving and the timing and that it has to happen. It's programmed in. It's going to. That's not what it is. It's just the timing of everything on these 4-year cycles. One big one is the global liquidity cycle, right? So again, this is more theoretical and this is more based on your opinion and what your viewpoint is. But you can look at chart after chart that does comparisons. A good Twitter account to follow for things of this sort is Tech Dev, which he's a big believer in this, and he's charted it out and showed it over and over and over that it's not the Bitcoin halving that's doing it, it's the liquidity cycle, which the Bitcoin cycle just happens to be in the middle of, as well as the presidential election. Like, there's just a lot of factors that go into this. And again, it's something, if you've never heard of or never looked into it, look into it. Even just out of the crypto sphere, it's a thing that exists, and it's just lining up again perfectly coming into 2025. Again, like, everything is just kind of lining up into that phrase. And again, I don't think it's just because of the Bitcoin halving. It's the timing of it just falls into place perfectly, whether it was planned that way or not. Who knows? But that's the way it's working, and all these factors combined is the reason I'm bullish on it happening again. Okay, so for all the naysayers, like, oh, there's no way it's going to happen again, look at all the data, look at what's happened historically, look at what's going on. Okay, and then even beyond that, look at the factors going on right now. Okay, which a huge one is the amount of institutional money, which has been here in the past. Again, we've been following BlackRock and their investments into the big mining farms even prior to the ETF. Like, so they've been in the game, right? All of them flooding since all these previous cycles, not even just this past year, like you go way back, right? You know that they've all been accumulating to a certain extent. Now, though, it's all out in the open. They're all doing it publicly, and it's all there, and now they're all bullish on it. And the ones who still are trying to FUD it, you're going to see them eventually start flipping, and that's when they're going to start dumping on you. So like the Jamie Dimons of the world, who are still trying to FUD it, even though we know they are all actively accruing, these are the signs you want to look at, right? And the biggest thing is just how much money is in this freaking ETFs. That should be a big indicator, right? So again, even if you don't believe in the cycles, you don't believe in any of that data stuff, look at where that big money is going and understand that when somebody as big as BlackRock is in, who essentially runs the game, they're going to make sure this cycle plays out. They're going to make sure that they get their money, right? And it's not just, again, BlackRock. It's all the big asset managers. Okay, they are all in this. They are all going to make sure they get their money. So it's going to be a big game, though, right? It's going to be who dumps on who first, what happens here, a lot of whale games, but I'm just trying to swim with the whales, as they say, right? Just trying to get our piece of the pie. Okay, but you can even see here, now a similar wave of enthusiasm surrounds the crypto ETFs. As of September 13th, spot Bitcoin ETFs have impressively reached over $61 billion, approximately 25% of the gold ETFs AUM in just 6 months since their inception, right? So these Bitcoin ETFs have been a massive, massive success, regardless of what you're hearing, all the FUD. The numbers don't lie, guys. Like, it's just crazy to see, for example, even just BlackRock alone, like how much them by themselves, their ETF alone holds. It's insane. Okay, and just to give a ballpark of how big BlackRock is, in case you're unsure, BlackRock is a publicly traded company with assets over 9.2 trillion. This is just BlackRock. Okay, so if they are this bullish, I'm sure you've seen all the interviews with Larry Fink all over the place, how bullish he is, how much they've been stacking. Look how much BTC iShares Bitcoin Trust alone has, 357,000 or $21 billion worth of BTC from just them alone. Okay, look at them between them, MicroStrategy, Grayscale. Like, it's just insane seeing how much money is in there, right? And it's not only them, it's not only these asset managers, it's freaking countries. We've seen with El Salvador as well as a bunch of others just continuing. There's going to be announcements coming and coming and coming throughout this bull market that they've been accruing, and they're going to publicly disclose, as well as other companies where we've just seen it over and over. Again, these guys are going to get their money, right? Whether they continue to hold it, whether they dump it in the bull market, Whether because they now own so much of it, they try to control the market. Maybe things aren't as volatile from here on out just because of the massive inflows. Who knows? But to me, it does change things. But at the end of the day, the fact that they are this invested, they are going to get their money. Okay, and it's only going to grow. It's only going to escalate, especially as Bitcoin approaches and exceeds $100,000. I think once people see that magic number, that's going to be the trigger to accelerate. Will that be the peak? Will we only peak at 120? Who knows? Will the craze go up to 150, 160, 200? Who knows, right? Those are where you have to kind of make your own predictions, your own numbers. But to me, a lot of it's going to have to do with the timing of things, right? Depending on what's going on at the time and the timing, right? So, because this is going to be the hard part when we get into the bull market, right? Like, this is where I'm probably going to have a hard time. And if you've been accruing, like, it's going to not be as easy as it seems, right? In theory, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to hold it and I'll sell at the top. Easy. I'll line it up. I'll sell it in September, October, November of 2025. Easy. Okay, well, if we have a double top, what if we peak earlier this time because there's a huge deviation cycle? What if the peak is in March? Like, there's a ton of factors. And that's why it's important to set goals, right? Set goals in the amount of crypto you want to hold, exit strategies. Like, these are things you gotta start like thinking about now, right? Focus on your stacking, especially right now while prices are still decent. Like, that's definitely what I'm doing. My goal right now, I'm trying to position myself where I want to be at. Okay, and just essentially the main accruing, because I want to continue accruing, it's going to be through mining throughout this bull market. But there is going to come to a point earlier where I'm going to start taking profits earlier. Okay, so that's going to be a whole nother bit. That's a whole different thing. But these are the things you want to start thinking about now. Okay, but so again, a huge factor that is going to force the appreciation to happen, and that's going to force the cycle to happen, is just the institutional interest alone. Like, that to me is a big thing. And then you have to add in all the catalysts. Another huge one that I think is going to be extremely underrated, and we've already kind of seen it into play, is Asia's, so I don't want to say influence, but pretty much their influence on what's going to happen in the cycle, especially if China does lift their ban on Bitcoin. Okay, and also mining. That's going to be a huge thing if it does happen. Okay, because again, China is in a position where they are likely to do like what we're going to start here pretty soon. They're going to start printing here pretty soon. So if that coincides with them printing, they are easing restrictions on cryptocurrency. Like, that alone is going to be another massive catalyst. Okay, because then that also is going to open the pipelines for the rest of Asia. Okay, which we've already seen. I mean, to me, they are going to have a big impact on this bull market. Okay, a lot of things, so many things, again, are lining up. Another one here locally for us is the presidential election, right? And obviously Trump has been orange pilled. He's super about it. Whether or not he's truly into it doesn't even matter, right? It's just perception based. Okay, so obviously if he were to win, the fact that he's so bullish on it, that would be a huge catalyst for crypto. Now you have to face the realization, though, that it's possible that he doesn't win, and what will be the ramifications there. So this is why, regardless of what party you're into, who you want to win, we want both candidates to be pro-crypto, right? The other side, we also want them to be. Maybe they're not going to. Maybe it's fake just for votes. But at the end of the day, it's perception. At the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to hedge our bets. But obviously, if the one candidate who is super about it wins, that's going to be another big catalyst. And just in general, even regardless of who wins, like if you look again historically, what happens to the S&P during these times? Typically good years, right? Even historically with the crypto cycles, if we go regardless of whether it's a Democrat or Republican, these are also good years. So again, these are all things that line up into that cycle. And these are all things that are going to have answers to in the coming weeks. Okay, as well as another potential huge catalyst, and this was arguably the catalyst that started it last year. Solana's big conference, Breakpoint. A lot of big news. Solana is one of the ones that has the most hype, and is likely to be one of the ones for this bull market that is going to be the most hype, most talked about. And not just Solana themselves, it's their entire ecosystem, which they do an excellent job of promoting, right? The biggest thing for me this entire freaking bull cycle, and the reasons I picked the projects I picked, was for adoption. That's one I've mentioned over and over. Adoption. Getting normies in without them really realizing it. Like making it so easy that they don't even know it's a crypto project. So that's why I'm so big on like crypto gaming this bull market. Just because if they're able to figure it out, able to get normies into the fray and make it extremely easy with chains like Solana or AVAX that are super fast, super cheap, where anybody can use. Like this is the one, if I'm going to introduce somebody to crypto, it's going to be through Solana. Transactions are so cheap, so damn near instant. Yes, it does have its issues, but yes, it's constantly getting better. Okay, and Breakpoint, probably going to be a lot of big announcements just like there were last year, which arguably started the whole damn run up. I mean, you can literally pinpoint it to the day of last year's show. This is right before, this was last September when market was still extremely bearish. Everything was down under 20 bucks, and you can see how it just escalated. Literally went from under 20 bucks towards the end of September to had a nice little peak in December up to 112 bucks. It was a 5x in a matter of months. And then from there, a few months later, another 2x, right? So from 20 bucks to damn near 200 bucks in the span of about 4 or 5 months. Okay, pretty crazy run up. And it's because of all the news, all the hype that just accelerated things, right? So a lot of interest got in there, and then it just spread to the rest of the market. Can the same thing happen here? Can the news that comes out of here kickstart things? Potentially. We know they have a lot of big updates coming up, not just from them, but from all their ecosystem. From things like Helium on the gaming front, things like Star Atlas. You're going to hear a lot of things. Hopefully Jupiter's going to have some big announcements. A lot of people are expecting that. So just a lot of big things potentially coming here. Things, updates with their Solana phone, with Fire Dancer. I think that's the big one people are waiting for. And that's going to be a huge upgrade to the already insane speed of Solana as a whole. Okay, so again, from the speculation front, a lot of big things can potentially come here. Another big one that's ongoing right now is Token 2049. Another big show. Again, all these things are like back to back. This one's ongoing now. By this weekend, Solana starts. As soon as tomorrow, potential Fed rate cuts. This is all this week. Any one of these things can kickstart it. Okay, whether or not it's going to happen or not, it's hard to tell. We know whales like to play games. Even though, like we know historically what's happened with rate cuts, people have their argument there. Still, to me, regardless of what happens in the short term, whether people try to FUD it for a little bit or it just pumps, it's also possible that this is the catalyst we do need. The Fed rate cut starts it, Solana Breakpoint keeps it going, and then other developments happen, and it just keeps it freaking going. Okay, we're at that time again in the cycle where this is the time, bros. Again, you can quickly see, just if we go to last market, what was the turning point? It was this month. It was September, October was right before these huge candles. Okay, so if the cycle plays out, even just the cycle theory alone, we have that going for us. We have potential Fed rate cuts. We have the global liquidity cycle. We have the DXY going. Like, there's so many freaking things that short term, yes, there may be volatility, but it's all priming for 2025. Okay, and then it gets even crazier when you're looking on individual projects and looking what they're doing. So like that's the ones I'm most bullish on, the ones that have like things actually launching, things shipping for 2025. Okay, like Casper being one of them. Hopefully Q1 may be big. Hopefully big exchange listings, 10 blocks per second, like all that stuff should be Q1, Q2, 2025. Potentially exchange listings even prior to that. We just did have that KRC20 launch. Then again with Solana, we have Fire Dancer, we have all these other projects, all the D-Pin things coming out, Helium Mobile, like just so many catalysts. So this is why right now, while prices are still relatively cheap, I know I am positioning myself, and that's why I wanted to like have my mining strategy also play out and pretty much be finalized with it. Will I get one more ASIC? Potentially, but realistically, I'm where I want to be at, right? These are the past few years of accruing, planning, so I can coast this year, right? So hopefully you guys also did participate during this bear market, because if you did, if you got into any of these things, whether it's Solana early at 10 bucks, Caspa back in 22 when even a couple $100 turned into already life-changing money, right? So a lot of us who bought early on, it's already given us great opportunity to even expand beyond that, right? Because like my big play is I take my existing coins, do profit take, and roll it into other things and just keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. And that's just a strategy that's been working for me. So now I have a good amount of coins, good amount of hardware, pretty much where I want to be. I am going to make a couple more moves. I've been debating on buying another ASIC. But looking at where current prices are and where we're at right now, I'm probably going to end up just buying more coins. Okay, I will keep an extra little fund just in case maybe we do dip. Maybe we get a lot of whale games and things do dip after when things may be looking like they're going to be bullish. Who knows? But again, the plan at the end of the day is for 2025. Okay, so definitely going to be buying certain coins more than others. There's other coins that I'm still kind of light in, and those are the coins I want to fill those bags in, right? I want to meet that goal that I had initially set. At this point, probably by the end of this month, it's going to be time for me to start recalibrating again, because at that point, hopefully in these next week or two, I'll be set with the majority of my bags, and then at that point, I have to decide what I want to do. Do I want to continue to add to those bags? Do I want to add another coin in the portfolio? Because again, my strategy is I've been consolidating these past like few quarters, right? I don't want to be spread out and have, 1% of this, 1% of this of like 30 different coins, right? I'd rather go harder into those high confidence plays and go for those, right? And it's a mix of like ones that probably won't have as many X's for, like, for example, Caspa. Yes, it's my biggest bag. Yes, it's my highest confidence play. But again, a lot of the money has already been made for me. Again, even if we only do a freaking 2x from here, beyond happy. I'm already beyond ecstatic with what it's done and what it's made out of, considering what I've put into it, right? So again, this is from being early. For those of us who have participated during this bear market where everybody's been bitching, crying, and oh, it's been so horrible, we've had an amazing time. A lot of profits to be made, a lot of yield has been made, a lot of preparations for this coming year. Okay, so even if the bull market ends up being a dud, we've done extremely well. Like, it's well exceeded my expectations. The goals are now going to be much higher. Hopefully things fall into play, right? But what's important is positioning yourself now, getting those things ready, planting those seeds in preparation for next year. Okay, and after all this, it doesn't mean we're too late. You're still extremely freaking early, bros. But the difference now between now and 2 years ago is that it's just a lot harder to get those extreme gains, right? To get like that 100x from Caspa and things of that sort, and those 40, 50, 60x's, it's going to be a little more difficult. Still doable, but again, that's why it's like for those people saying, oh, there's no way the cycle repeats. To me, it's a lot of the money has been made. A lot of the yield has been made. Probably better said. Okay, so it just really depends on your viewpoint, what you're doing, whether it's just buying, whether it's mining. Again, like I've said, it's either avenue, bros. Like whether you're mining, position yourselves, get your ASIC ready, and realistically, again, if you're buying something with a 2-year ROI and you're expecting it to potentially only have 12 months of profitable mining, this is where it's like, again, the time for a lot of this was these past 2 years. Okay, so, and I know it's been a lot of bitching and moaning too, because people chasing these high risk, hype ASICs, such as the Caspa ASICs, and people being like super burned, like, oh man, ASIC mining is garbage, and it's because you were chasing those things, buying them at horrible times instead of fully researching. There's been a ton of coins that have done excellent yield, like K7 being a prime example. Recently, that had a little pump. That is a miner that's been around for a year and a half, was the Z15s, the Z15 Pros. Those have been out for damn near a year and a half now. This March will be 2 years. Okay, so there's been a lot of those more legacy ASICs. The L7 is another prime example. Any of the ETH hash ASICs have been good examples where people who got in early, you've been stacking this whole freaking time. And yes, even right now, maybe the fiat profitability or amount isn't great, But that's kind of been the whole thesis. Like, I wasn't even expecting to have that many gains throughout this bear market. The expectation was to be just stacking yield, and then next year hopefully get those gains. But from participating in the market, the reason I'm even more bullish is the fact that we have had extreme gains these past 2 years from being in it. Not looking at ROI, oh, it's only making 5 cents a day. In many cases, that 5 cents a day turned into thousands of dollars. Okay, because of the yield. Not focusing on fiat profitability, focusing on the yield. Okay, so keep those things in mind, guys. Again, doesn't matter if you're mining or you're buying. The key thing is to just be stacking in preparation for what I'm hoping for is going to be an extremely good 2025, and what's already been an extremely good bear market, even though, again, in my opinion, we've been in a bull market for a year already, right? So again, to each their own on that viewpoint. Everybody has different reasonings behind that. But when you've already had this many gains, it's hard to really call that a bear market, right? So, and everybody's had different experiences, guys, and this is why it's important to do your own research. Go into your high conviction plays. Don't take anybody's word for it. Don't take this dude's word for it. Don't take this other guy's. You do your research. You go with what makes sense to you. Because when I was doing my little videos, when I first started a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was in a completely different world than everybody else in crypto mining YouTube. Okay, so those plays were high conviction plays. At the time, everybody was like, you're stupid or whatever. People aren't really laughing as much now. And again, a lot of stuff hasn't changed either. And it's not even from like investing a ton of money. It's just literally DCAing the amount I'm putting in my electric every month throughout this time. That's all that's been going on. It's not that I dropped 10 grand on this thing when it was that. That's not what it's been either, right? It's been DCAing or mining on that small scale. Again, I've been able to grow because we've had those W's, but it's from those initial small investments. $100 here, $100 there, and it's turned into that, right? But again, you have to be in it to win it. You can't wait until the pump has already happened. Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing that's going to turn people into those coulda, woulda, shoulda guys is that they just were so focused on that fiat profitability. Like, oh, it's only making 5 cents. You wait until the profitability is at $20, $30 a day, and now everybody else jumps on, the hash rate goes up, prices go up. You're too late. The goal was to stack during those times when yield was 10 times what it is now and make that money. Those are the real winners of this coming bull market, hopefully. Okay, and the thing is that people aren't going to realize that until it's now the fall of 2025 and things have peaked. Like, oh man, I really wish I would have done that. You still have time to change those things, right? So again, to each their own. I could care less what you do. This is up to you. I'm just documenting my journey. I like documenting and seeing where my head was at, right? So a lot of these videos, again, they don't do too well. It's for me personally. I like to be able to look back and see where my head was at that time. Looking at the market, looking at the prices, where was I looking at? Why was I into this coin? Why was I bullish at this time? Why wasn't I? Why was I bearish? Why was the market bearish? Okay, so kind of to each their own, guys. You do you, but just look at everything. Research things, research the coins, look at the markets, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys feel you're prepared? Are you guys where you want to be? Did you guys set goals? Did you guys meet those goals? How's it been going so far, guys? Let me know in the comments. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? I know overall it's been trash, right? Every comment I make try to be bullish. It's all negative, and that's fine, right? Everybody's entitled to their opinion, because at the end of the day, we don't really know, man. Can be bullish and all this stuff, and then freaking Satoshi's wallet moves next month and everything gets thrown into freaking Larry Fink's wallet and it's all a rug. we don't freaking know, right? All we can go by is what's happened, or we're just speculating, right? So we'll see if it works out. To me, though, all signs are pointing to a damn good 2025, potentially one of the best, and that's why I'm so invested. But again, let me know what you guys think. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.